Unfortunately, by the strictest definition of what a human being is, white people are just below human beings. You are negotiating with an animal, a wild dog that you're trying to train to be tamed, to be ubobi, who guards your house. You can never do that. Implicitly is that these white South Africans are doing everything in their power to call other white superpowers to continue to oppress us. White people have no moral authority to lecture any black person about racism. On December 16, I clean up the graves of my uncles who were killed by whites. Because the conditions that black people are living in right now in this country were designed, architected, and enforced by white people and white power.
Elon Musk, ne?
You understand?
Tamalga Elon Musk.
Yeah, actually.
Oh, is some of the things that he said. And I heard that you're getting into a debate with him. I'm actually excited about that one.
Yeah.
And I'd like for you to get into that one.
Yeah, no, it's happening sometime this week. That Zanzou story is the most heartbreaking thing we've ever seen. Whatever happens here, it seems like they're protected by the cops. They're protected by the cops. So therefore, you know that whatever happens to you inside a club, you can't run to the cops. Black men were abused in this country and nobody batted an eyelid. It's a joke. Weekends are for Birvosros. It's like a habitual thing. Every weekend I need to have a Birvosro. Whether I'm going to a rugby or not, I need to have a Birvosro. I've been trending for 5 days straight. The budget speech came, the budget speech did not come. I'm still trending. Of course I speak well. I'm highly intelligent. Like, you understand what I'm saying?
Everyone, Stella Manzi, Stella Coffee, Klabulombalo is back. NOTA Mondays, the authority. The Mondays belong to NOTA.
It's not a Monday.
It's a Monday, the 24th. It's a 24th.
It's a mind day.
Oh, it's a mind day.
Yeah. Mind your business. We are mining. The gold price is 3,000 rand an ounce. I'm making a crazy amount of money. But otherwise,
for those who don't know, when he says abonomsane, it means hamazamazama. Those who know.
You know what I mean?
I think let's start with last week. You were trending the whole of last week, and I think because
the whole week,
I guess because of Elon Musk, and you also brought me a lot of people abang Tuga and people saying all sorts of
hey,
things, which is fine. It's okay.
Back to Gilio.
And it's okay.
Zulu has to switch his scope.
So many people were tugging.
What's her name again? Citizen Concerned.
I don't know her. No.
Yo, shout out to her channel. She's one of those, black people that has to speak like a white person that says, oh, black people, they make babies, you're doing this, and white people built this country, and white people did this, or white people did that, white people did this, white people did this, you know what I mean? And it's just so sad to think that, our black sisters, sometimes when they get educated, they get to universities and they think that they're now enlightened, they forget about the actual conditions that most black people live in so that they can have an opportunity to escape those circumstances. I see myself as one of those people who's been able to escape the worst circumstances that black people live in. I mean, I don't live like a typical black person lives. You know what I mean? So it was just so funny to see that. So I spent the whole day talking to my white friends because my white friends are having so much, they're laughing at all of this stuff. And the thing about white people that have black friends, ne? For them, they just can't imagine. They cannot fathom the opinions of the fear-mongering, swargafar believing, brainwashed white people. They just cannot understand it. So my friend lives at Hallmark House, and
that was going to be my first question. Do you hate white people? Let's start there.
What do you mean?
And I know, I know, but I mean, let's confront some of the things that were said last week.
Week's episode was about saving white people.
Oh, saving white people.
Yes, it was about saying to black people, because you need to understand, there's black people that are watching. There's a Sbusiso who's waking up at 5 a.m, right? doesn't even have a color phone, sitting in the taxi, and there's a girl that's sitting in front of him scrolling through TikTok, and then she sees Ronaldo Jose's video. He woke up at 4 to get in that taxi at 5. He's sitting with another black girl who's got a nice iPhone. Maybe she's got a boyfriend that got her a nice phone. Maybe she works really hard. She can get that iPhone, but she can't afford a car. She can afford the phone. Scrolling through, and then he's confronted by this Ronaldo host guy. This Ronaldo host guy is talking about that there's a white genocide, and Busiso works for a white person. You know what I mean? He wakes up at 4 a.m. to serve this white person, right? He's talking about we don't want to redress the land issues. So he's basically dismissing the whole entire reconciliatory journey that South Africa has been descending on for the past 35 years, because it started in 1990 when they released Mandela from prison and they unbanned political organizations like the ANC and etc. So he's sitting there thinking to himself, after all the oppression that we faced, after all of this, dehumanization that we faced, after being called monkeys, baboons, gorillas, animals, everything under the sun, we still have an issue with white people that think that they are being oppressed or that they are being victimized by black people. Then maybe there is no room for me to have any empathy for a white person. Maybe there is no room for me to have any respect for a white person because they relish in my suffering. In fact, they are going around the world to exacerbate my suffering. They're going to countries that provide aid for services that are used predominantly by black people in South Africa and saying that the cord must be cut. They don't want the ones that have been infected with diseases like HIV that came about through, I guess it's a bioweapon. They were injected into people. The stories are out there. We spoke about the Dr. Voto Bassons of this world, and everything that they've done. There are black people that live in communities that have been decimated by the heroin or nyaupe epidemic, whatever you call it. It's still heroin. You know what I mean? Over 90% of the heroin comes from Afghanistan. The farms are funded by US aid. That opium. So he's seeing all of this and saying, how heartless and evil can white people be to do this to me? Now, when you spread this narrative too far and wide, you are angering black people. And all we said in that episode is, my fellow black people, do not take to heart what these brainwashed white people are saying, because they don't have the same culture as us. Their culture was formed in violence and conflict and war and killing people on an industrial scale. There is no black nation that has got an atomic bomb. None. No black country can decimate Hiroshima and Nagasaki. There's no black country that has got drones that are firing at people and all that stuff. If you look at the type of carnage that is going on in Ukraine right now, when you watch the videos of the war, think about that. That's not a black country. That's white countries fighting amongst each other. If you know the stories of Yugoslavia and Kosovo, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Sarajevo, all of those things, the countries of Slobodan Milosevic, where mass graves were found with thousands of people that were buried and decimated, none of them being black. It's just white on white violence, right? Then you need to have someone that's going to mediate your understanding of this culture so that you're not angered by certain things that they overlook because they look at things from their own perspective only, So that's what it was about. And what you saw is the black people saying, you know what, actually, these white people are harmless. These, you know what I mean? And that doesn't help anyone but the 7%ers. 93% of this country is non-white. 93%. That is an overwhelming number. Now, when you say, as the Freedom Front Plus, that the laws from rural development or whatever, land, whatever, restitution and rural development, the PAC's portfolio in the cabinet, the laws are going to try to put land ownership in in the same proportions as our demographics, and you feel as if that is unjustified or unjustifiable, what you are saying implicitly is that black people do not deserve any dignity. So the rhetoric that's coming from the white right, which is unchallenged, and I mentioned that, I said, Helen Zilla's not saying anything about these people. Helen Zilla's not saying, hey, I'm going to fly to America right now and tell them that what these people are talking about is completely non-existent. You are basically training a black person's mind to hate you. They don't understand. They think that they are spreading fear amongst themselves so they can raise funds for their organizations and whatever and pretend to be protecting white rights, right? Unfortunately for them, when facts are put on the table, they think that it is some form of hate speech. You need to understand something very simple. We're losing 100,000 white people in our population each and every single year. In 2022, there were 1.8 million whites. They're closer to In 2022, there were 4.8 million whites. They're closer to 4.5 million now. And the number of blacks is increasing. The number of Indians is increasing. I mean, there's almost 1.8 million Indians now. The number of colored people is increasing at almost the same rate, or proportionally to the same rate as black people. In 1996, when the first census was done, at the time when our constitution was being adopted, there were 31 million black people, right? There were 3 million colored people. Now there's 52 million black people, and there's 5 million colored people. So colored people, their numbers are growing in lockstep with black people. Indian people, their numbers are growing, but they're pretty stagnant. White people, their numbers are shrinking. Everything I said is based on facts. If you don't believe me, you can ask Grok. Elon Musk gave it to you for free because he saw the whole entire thing. He pondered about it. He didn't reject what I said. He said, And then he also responded to another comment coming from a person saying that white people in Africa can call themselves Africans. And he said, that seems reasonable, right? So even him, he is presented with the facts and he's looking at the facts. You can't refute the facts. So with the facts on the table, right now, it is incumbent upon white South Africans to actually meet us halfway. You cannot continue this situation where more and more black people are falling behind. More and more black people are impoverished. More and more black people are dependent on welfare, have no dignity, cannot determine their own lives and livelihoods. And also, you cannot call world superpowers to sanction us, to threaten us, and think that there won't be any consequences for yourself as a white South African. Because the message implicitly is that these white South Africans are doing everything in their power to call other white superpowers to continue to oppress us. The Mandela moment is gone. The Ramaphoria is gone. All we have is a situation where black people are living in desperation. Increasingly so. And it's bad. And the country is a tinderbox and it could explode at any moment, So I don't know what more one needs to say. There is no different way to put it other than the honest way.
South African Human Rights Commission?
Look, the South African Human Rights Commission, and I was speaking to one of the guys there, Wisani Baloy. I thought it was a girl because my other cousin is Wisani Baloy, and she's a girl. So Wisani has a picture of him and his wife on his profile picture. So, you know what I mean? I thought she was the Wisani, but it's a he. You know what I mean? And they said the outcome should come out by the end of the day today while we're recording. So I guess we'll be only able to reflect on what
outcome? The outcome of what? For those who don't know.
No, the outcome of whether they're going to investigate it and refer it to the Equality Court for a determination.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. But, I feel no guilt whatsoever. I know that even if it can go in front of any court, there's nothing I said that is tantamount to hate speech. I was calling for non-violence. I said, yes, black people have been savaged. Black people do not need to savage others. Let us rise above that. Let us continue to have the moral higher ground. When people used to call Nelson Mandela a sellout, I said, yes, you can feel that Nelson Mandela sold us out. But as an old man, there was very little he could do with the situation. He did the most important thing that he could do, which is give us the moral authority. White people have no moral authority to lecture any black person about racism. There's no white person that has got any moral authority to lecture me about racism. On December 16, I clean up the graves of my uncles who were killed by whites. Every single year. That's my grandmother's birthday. I know what it's like to have a generation of fatherless cousins. The pain that I feel. My mother is Mother Christmas every Christmas because her brothers are no longer living to take care of their children. So her and her husband have to put money together. And my father has to take care of the family that he's already lobolat continuing because he's in a privileged position. He couldn't just take my mother and take her away from her burdens of her family. Like it's supposed to be done in normal marriages, is that a woman will marry into a family and then she will now take care of this family. That's why we do this whole entire lobola thing, because she's going to now help bless this family. It's not that I marry a girl and now her family are my dependents. That's not how it happens. She takes my surname, she becomes part of my family. My mother took my father's surname, but my father is still supporting his wife's family. That's the situation that we're in. We've got no other choice. If my cousins don't have their fathers, then my father needs to step in, and also I need to treat them like my brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? That's just the situation we're in. We've got child-headed households. I've got brothers, my older brothers. Okay, well, I don't have older brothers anymore, actually. Before ARVs came, my brothers died like flies. They died like flies. Have you ever gone into an overcrowded ward at Chris Hani Baragwana in 1998 and then heard from the doctor that we're transferring your aunt into a hospice? You need to accept that your cousins are going to grow up without parents. Have you ever done that as a white person? On a mass scale. Have you ever attended a funeral each and every single Saturday as a white person? Every Saturday you are attending a funeral. Every Saturday. Have you ever lived that life as a white person? Then you've got no moral authority to judge anything I say, because the conditions that black people are living in right now in this country were designed, architected, and enforced by white people and white power. That's the situation that we live in. We're subjects to white power. Everything. Our lives are colored in that we have to live either in accordance with white ideals, or we have to adhere to our own true native identity as black people. That's the balance that we play. Our sisters wear weaves. They can't even wear their own hair. Imagine little white girls braiding their hair in Bantu knots, all of them, just to fit in. Because that's what the black people are doing. Because there's only 7% of them in the population. Just imagine it. I'm saying imagine it because it's not the reality. In fact, the 97 or 93% of the population that dominates has to now assimilate to the 7%. 7%. I spoke about my time in prison and what I learned when I was speaking to Penwell. And it was very unfortunate that, he descended back into his Afriforum sympathizing rhetoric. You know what I mean? By saying that what I did was hate speech, because clearly he reacted to the clip and didn't watch that full episode. Because if you watch the full episode, you know that I said that we're going to treat the whites in this country right.
You even said a disclaimer before. You even said people must not call what I'm about to say racism, and then you went in.
So, in that instance, right, in this situation, where our sisters now need to look like white women just to get jobs, just to be acceptable, just to be seen as human. There's a girl that said, I dated an Afrikaner man and he made me feel human. Imagine. One of my sisters said that she did not feel human until a white person said you are human. Meanwhile, she's the one who's got 100% human genes. And then she had to ask someone who's got 97% human genes to make her feel human. Just imagine that. Just imagine that. Can you just imagine that? Now, put this in the prison context, where the situation that gets people into prison because they cannot do anything legal with their time because the opportunities are so limited. The system has been designed by white people, and they are very much aware you need to be smart to do crime. So it's not dumb people that are able to do crime. You know what I mean? Just that you can't get away with it forever. They're very much aware that the reason why they're in prison is because of the system that was created by whites. And I said that they hate two things. They hate foreigners and they hate whites. They hate whites more. They hate foreigners because whites use foreigners to suppress them, to deny them opportunities.
How?
You go to any restaurant that is dominated by non-South African blacks and complain and see the treatment that you'll get. And then ask to call the manager. And Bornwell will come there and say, hey, I'm so sorry. And then nothing will happen. And then you'll leave in protest as a black person. And you'll go to another restaurant on 4th in Parkhurst. Go to another restaurant on 4th in Parkhurst and sit down and observe how the white customers are being treated. Meanwhile, you spend more than they have to. You spend more. As a black person, you have to spend more. There's no way we can spend less because we need to show that not siyakwazi ukuzenza lezi zinto. We're not as forced. That's why we have to wear the designer clothes and brandeds and all those things to say that, yes, we are also to be seen. Please see us. Please see us. Hello? Yes. 93% of the population is just asking to be seen. As a white person, the guy who's opening the gate for you, who's security, is a black person. The guy who you open your window for and donate some coins to, imagine, coins. What can coins buy? They can't even buy a can of Coca-Cola. You can't buy a can of Coca-Cola with coins. You need a note, 10 rand more, right? So, the mere fact that you encounter black people serving you at every single point and you still cannot bring yourself to see that this system is unjust, it's unfair, it's not right. And you also cannot then see into the future and say, if this situation continues, at which breaking point are the black people going to say, enough is enough? I'd rather burn this country down than try to live in peace and harmony as we progress slowly. At which point? You're just waiting for that point. And that is why you need to now internalize a fear that, oh, damn it, we're being genocided. No, you're not being genocided. But you know that the way in which things are continuing, you're asking to be genocided. You're asking for it. You're begging for it. You're saying, please genocide us. Please genocide us. 1994, we said that we're going to redress the past imbalances, and we still haven't done that. And even though you're asking for us to redress them, we're protesting, we're funding things to ensure that it never happens. We're sabotaging you at each and every single turn. So those negotiations that were had were not genuine. We're negotiating with people that cannot be trusted, who cannot hold up their end of the deal. And the reason why the deal was made was to stop bloodshed. They said it was a bloodless revolution. So now you're continuing the things that almost brought us to bloodshed. You're continuing them. Unabated. No one's stopping you. There's not one rich black person. There's not a Mutsepe. There's not a Teke. Name them. That is funding any media organization that is going to change the narrative. 30 million can be donated by Mutsepe Foundation to Solidarity Fund, which is managed by white people. Cannot even put down 1 million to change this narrative. Cannot even say anything. He can go to Stellenbosch University, speak in Afrikaans, which is a black language, by the way. Black language. And Afrikaans speakers are predominantly black. Right? But not once say that Afrikaners need to do more, to integrate, to stop this thing of wanting to live in little enclaves. It does not benefit anyone, the current situation, except for Fidelity, maybe. I mean, clearly, because we see Fidelity cars everywhere. Everything is protected or whatever. You name the security company. Everything is protected by a security company. The security companies are basically extorting us because the situation has not changed. It's an even more desperate situation. So, thankfully, I've got so many white friends and they're just calling me. They're like laughing. Because what, you got out of me is that last week's episode was actually performance art. Yes, I said facts. Yes, I said it, but it was performance art. It was Andy Kaufman, a white performance artist, the one who inspired Kanye West. I'm also a big fan of Andy Kaufman. I gave you a little Andy Kaufman performance. But in that Andy Kaufman performance, I didn't call for any violence. I called for non-violence. I didn't call for any vengeance, retribution, anything. I didn't call for discrimination, any of those things. I just stated the facts and said, for those black people that cannot understand why whites in South Africa are so unreasonable, give them some grace. They don't come from a culture of Ubuntu. They were molded in savagery. They were molded in it, unfortunately. And you would know, you've got some Zulu family heritage as well. You know that in KwaZulu-Natal, because of the history and the violence that happened there are certain ways in which people behave, right? That can only come from people who are at conflict on a mass scale. That they behave like that. Because if you go to Upper Limpopo, where your other family also, your Pedi side of your family, they don't have that same attitude. If you go to what was the Gaza region, the Tsonga people, they don't have that same attitude. The Venda people in the Vembe, they don't have that same attitude. Even in the Northwest, they don't have that same attitude. It is a particularly KZN thing. And because we know that there was a lot of war that was going on there. So we know that certain cultures find expression after they continue, over and over again. People need to be able to defend themselves. People need to be able to feel safe and feel free. That's why Zulu people, as part of their cultural celebrations, they carry spears. Those are war implements. A spear is not a decoration thing. Yes, we use them as decorations now because we're not at war anymore. But that's a war implement. You know what I mean? As in, this was a nation that was stopped in its development as it was expanding, as it was at war. That war is now part of that culture, as in their culture was frozen in that snapshot, in that freeze frame. And that's the picture of Zulus right now. 1906, the Bambata Rebellion. There was nothing like that anywhere else where black people were living in South Africa. That was KZN. And when you look at the British colonialism that happened, they got to KZN last after they conquered the Cape. So they encroached on those lands until they went all the way up to find where the Boers had settled after treaties were signed between the Zulus and the Boers. Petritief treaties. You know? And
Before we continue,
yeah.
ne, I want you to hold that thought of, and actually want you to go into it. You did say earlier, Afrikaans is a black language. I want you to expand on that at some point. Finish your point, and then let's get into it.
So, let me put it to you like this, right? Other than black people, only white Afrikaners have been victims of genocide in South Africa in their history. Only. The British put white Afrikaners, who now identify as Afrikaners, in concentration camps. Afrikaans and Afrikanerdom as a white culture started in 1875. 1875. If you go through my timeline, there's a picture of me at the farm where Afrikaans was written into a language that can be taught. It was a Creole language. What do they speak in Jamaica? Patois. It's a Creole language, right? What do they speak in Mauritius? French Creole. What do they speak in Haiti? French Creole. So the black people that were moved around as slaves, black, Indian, whatever, Asian, all of them, they were moved around as slaves, gathered in the Cape, then created a language called Afrikaans. And they communicated with the French Huguenots and the Dutch settlers and the Flemish. You must remember that Holland used to be an empire. Part of Belgium was conquered by Holland at the height of the Dutch Empire. And the Flemish were slaves. Yes, white slaves. Yes. The Dutch, the real Dutch, they enslaved Flemish people from Belgium. So the Flemish Belgians are seen as a lesser class in comparison to the Swiss Belgians. They were seen as a lesser class. And when they came down to settle and colonize, they needed to bring people that can do the labor. And who did they bring? They brought the Flemish. They didn't bring the real Dutch. And therefore, when they came to the Cape, the Dutch who were in charge of the colony, right, had these lower class, within their context, of Flemish people that they could now use to, settle the place, to develop agriculture in the place. But at no point in time did they see those Flemish as equivalent to Dutch. They were a conquered people. It's the same way India will not claim any of the 1.8 million Indians that live in South Africa because they were slaves in India already. They already have a caste system. So when they traded those Indians that are now South Africans, they traded them as slaves. There's no Indian president that has ever said, we need to reclaim our Indians from Durban or anywhere in South Africa. They've never said that. Why? Because they don't see them as the same class as them. They see them as a lower class, as a class that can be enslaved. So the Flemish could not now be Dutch because now I'm assimilating to my master's culture. But my master still doesn't see me as human. Agangiboni. So let me rather get together with all these other workers, slaves, or whoever else is here, because we're all on the same level. And we'll exchange culture like that. And then that process got broken down by the incursion of the British when the British arrived. The beginning of the 19th century, right? Is it the 19th century, the 1800s? Yes. At the beginning of the 19th century, the British took over the Cape. 69 years later is when Afrikaans was formed. In that time, they've been speaking Afrikaans the whole entire time. The Flemish. Not Dutch. There were few Dutch settlers. The Jan van Riebeeck, he's Dutch, yes. But the people that worked on his ship at the bottom, You know Captain Jack Sparrow. He's the captain of the ship, but there's other people that work for him. Those were Flemish people. They are not Dutch. People don't understand that. So when Afrikaners say that they don't have a homeland, it's because, and in this context I'm talking about white Afrikaners only, it's because they were already slaves in a conquered land, and they were moved as slaves to go and work in another conquered land. And they created a Creole with the other slaves from other foreign lands that they met in the Cape. You know? And the natives as well. And they could all communicate, and they created this hodgepodge cosmopolitan existence. And then that was stopped right in its tracks as it was developing and amalgamating. And the British said, no, we are the ones who are supreme. All these other slaves have been brought in by us. And once they came in, you must remember that the Dutch also had colonies in Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, all of that was colonized by the Dutch, right? It was taken over by the British after the Dutch Empire fell. So those people cannot trace their origins back to this Dutch culture that actually colonized the Cape at first. That's why they trekked up and further. They didn't say, damn it, let's actually get on the boats and go back to Europe. They trekked as soon as the British came. And that was the trek because they knew who they were. They knew that they're actually not Dutch. And that's why they said, no, we need to create a new identity for ourselves. Oh, there's this language that we're speaking with the other blacks and all the other workers and all the other slaves here, Afrikaans. Let us make that our language. And they did that. So what they're doing right now is trying to defend the theft of culture. The Creole Dutch that they spoke here, Creole Dutch and Flemish that they spoke here, right? That is something they adopted from the blacks in that same region. And they took it, and now they want to create a master race out of it for themselves that they can only keep for themselves.
So what are you saying about 1976? Because the uprisings were pretty much...
The British have done each and every single atrocity known possible to white Afrikaners. They kept them in concentration camps, right? Then they kept them from power. When they couldn't keep them from power anymore, right? They gave them political power, but they had no economic power. The situation that we're facing right now as black South Africans is the same situation the Afrikaners found themselves in after the Treaty of Vereniging. You understand what I'm saying? So as it developed, they only ended up getting power 46 years later. They only got it 46 years later, in 1948. And then from then onwards, that's when you can say that the Afrikaners then developed Afrikaner-led apartheid. Apartheid is a global term known all around the world, but it's an Afrikaans word. In Israel, it's apartheid, but it's called apartheid because this is where it was bred. In America, they call it what? Jim Crow. Segregation. We've got our own name for it. Similar system, you can even call it the same system.
Also, till 1976, when our parents were uprising against Afrikaans,
it's because the British said the Afrikaners are your enemies and they want to teach you this Afrikaans language. Because the Afrikaners are like, damn it, we need to make our language the general language. You can't allow the British to oppress us and then oppress our language as well. So let us make our language the general language because the blacks are protesting against our power by speaking English instead. Speaking the language of our oppressors. Forgetting that the British oppressed all of us. Queen Victoria oppressed all of us. Every single one of us. So, in their response to their prolonged victimhood, they took things too far. And they haven't been able to draw themselves back. And for them, the justification for their actions is what they went through. And the vindication was when they got given reparations. You must remember it was argued in British Parliament whether Afrikaners should get reparations for the Anglo-Boer War and the concentration camps for a long time. And they got those reparations. The same reparations that black people are asking for right now, white Afrikaners got reparations from the British.
From Americans, the Japanese people got their reparations as well, right?
Yes. The Germans
Black people did.
are paying reparations too. You know? So, I mean, a lot of people have been able to get reparations. It is only the blacks that don't deserve reparations. Yet the blacks were the worst treated by everybody. By everybody. And if you want to inculcate a culture of white supremacy in a black-dominated country, you are asking for war. You're asking for war. You've got your foot on the necks of black people. You're not giving them an opportunity to breathe. And when they try to fight for a breath, you're taking a Beretta to the back of their head and snuffing them out and saying, -1 problem. You've put them in a bucket and all of them are crabs. As one tries to get out, the rest pull him down. You know what I mean? Our country is a tall poppy country. We see tall poppy syndrome everywhere. NOTA ngathi utrenda kakhulu. Hayi ithi sithi simshaya ngescandal nyana. Ithi sithi udlengulile. Tall poppy syndrome. Ngathi abantu bamthanda kakhulu. Tall poppy syndrome. Let's celebrate. And when NOTA gets charges or whatever and everything else and has to go to, it's big news. It's trending everywhere. Yeah, trend. Yeah, hey, yabona. Bambile. And when the court says, listen, NOTA doesn't have a court case to answer. He's an innocent man. Let him go. Hey, Giyathula. How? Madoda. Why is that? Why is that? It's our tall poppy syndrome. The second thing, the second perspective, this platform is for black people. When I'm speaking, when I come here as a guest, I'm speaking only to black people. Only to black people. You are at our braai. You've got a camera because we put it on YouTube. Please do not invite yourself uninvited. We do not comment on what is said when white people are braaiing by themselves. Askaze. I've never said, hey, Sbuda, yes, you know, my white neighbors that live downstairs, they had a braai, and hey, the things that they were saying about black people and the ANC and this, then that, and hey, they're the only ones that pay tax and what? We never discuss such things on our platform. We don't watch right-wing channels, Ronaldo Menta, or all of these right-wing channels, and they say the most salacious things. Abo Willem Piet, abo, you name them. I'm learning them now because they're all over my timeline now.
No, ERROL Musk, ne?
You understand?
Tamalga Elon Musk.
Yeah, actually.
Oh, is some of the things that he said. And I heard that you're getting into a debate with him. I'm actually excited about that one.
Yeah.
And I'd like for you to get into that one.
Yeah, well. No. It's happening sometime this week.
Okay.
It's going to drop on Worldview. Thanks to Donald Brown for setting that up for us.
See, I like that. Shout outs to Donald Brown. I like a culture of encouraging debate as opposed to a culture of he must be censored, he can't say this, you can't say that. I mean,
you know,
it's free speech, bro.
I told another friend of mine that I'm going to have a debate with Elon Musk now, a mutual friend of ours. And I said, and I was also talking to another white friend of mine, Nathaniel. Actually, I've been talking to all my white friends because they're laughing. They're calling. They're like, yo, you're trending on this one. Yo, you're on this news channel. Yeah. For them, it's exciting because they understand my intention. They know me. They've lived with me, you know. So they know I'm not a racist. You know, also even if I was a racist, right? Even if I was a racist, I'm entitled to. I've got gravestones of my people who were killed by white racists. I'm entitled to. If people are able to say whatever they say and put crosses on a mountain, every time I drive to Polokwane, I have to look at these crosses on the mountain. As if those are the only deaths that matter. Right? So, then let me have my racism if I want to be racist. You can't deny me my right to be racist. I'm not abusing anyone. I'm not denying anyone any opportunity. I'm not violating anyone. You know, I don't go out there attacking people that are, you know, not black.
Can a black person be racist?
I mean, I don't think it's even worth a debate. It's impossible. We have not committed the savagery upon other races because they are different from us. The savagery that was committed to us was because we were different from them. If ever we had conflict as Africans, we had it amongst ourselves as Africans. Same skin color, similar cultures, similar languages, different dialects, maybe. We haven't done what they've done amongst themselves. You know what I mean? So it's impossible. But either way, let's say that it is possible. Let's just say it is possible. I have every right. Because I'm the one who was dominated. I'm the one who was slaughtered. I'm the one who was killed. And after you've killed my family, you've denied my cousins the right to have fathers, to go to the matric dance with their dad, dropped off in a nice car at least. You don't have to rent a car from Avis, whatever, to go to your matric dance and even look good. After all of that, am I not able to feel aggrieved as the offended party, as the victim of this oppression? Am I not allowed to feel aggrieved? Am I not allowed to hate white people after everything that my family has been put through because of white people? Am I not allowed to hate white people?
1994 happened. Somebody would say that's hate. Why would you want to hate anyone?
1994 happened.
Aren't we living in a rainbow nation?
My dad was
Aren't
not
we
born in
living
1994.
a democratic country.
My dad was not born in 1994. 1994 didn't come with reparations for the past injustices. Just came with a car. Okay. Asalu, ne? Sure. That's what it came with. You understand what I'm saying? My dad grew up without his father because my grandfather was chased off his land. My dad grew up in poverty. My dad wore a vest because my grandmother could not afford a t-shirt for him. My dad wrote on his thigh with a thorn from a tree because my grandmother could not afford a slate. My grandmother was paid in peanuts on a peanut farm. And when she got that bag of peanuts as her payment, she needed to sell that bag of peanuts to get some money so that she could feed my father. When I learn about my family history, all I hear about is suffering. All I hear about is suffering. There isn't a good memory. My dad can say, hey, we went on vacation. He doesn't have those memories. Everything that I'm getting to enjoy, he's enjoying for the first time right now. I look at pictures of my sister in the 80s, flying to Durban, going to Mkababa Beach. You know Mkababa Beach? Caesar Jomo's grandfather made sure that that land, black people could use it to enjoy themselves because all the other prime beach land was not for black people. Do you know that, right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's Caesar Jomo's grandfather. He fought for that. Caesar Jomo's grandfather. He fought so that black people could have some sort of dignity. So in the 80s, my sister could sit on a plane, fly to Durban, go to the beach, have pictures. This is during Apartheid. It took a lot to get my father to that point in his life. My father worked at Goldfields. Goldfields owns South Deep Mine. My father worked in the deepest mine in the world. The richest deposit of gold in the world. And his job was to be a draftsman, to draw plans. He drew plans for the mine executives' houses, and then he also drew the plans of the mine laborers' hostels. My dad's job at Goldfields was to say, this is the quality of life that white people deserve. This is the quality of life that we deserve. My dad, when he arrived in Johannesburg in 1973, stayed in a hostel. The same hostels that you know of in Soweto right now, that's where my dad stayed. He washed Indishin and everything else, built himself up, had to work for Goldfields for 10 years to have the permission to open up his own business. He didn't work for Goldfields because he didn't have skills and he couldn't do it on his own. He had to because that was the law. And then when he was about to have his first child and get married, he couldn't serve a boss and still be able to provide for his wife and his children that were coming. He needed to stand on his own, and he started his own business in 1983. That's when my dad started his company, his construction company. And from that point onwards, he went from being a draftsman to being an architect and a builder and a building contractor. Self-trained. Couldn't even finish Form 5, right? Busy Form 5. Yeah.
Form 5, yeah.
I did grade 12, bro. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Smuda. I'm so sorry.
Hari,
you know the generation gap. Hari, ngikhuleka nzima. Ngikhuleka nzima. Okay, okay, what was primary school? Form band ge.
Dom.
Because I knew we had grade 1 to grade 7.
When you started from primary school, the first grade, they used to call it Dom. That's what it was called, yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So, let me tell you what happened to me. I went to primary school in 1997, right? Grade 1 was grade 1. Grade 2 was grade 2. Grade 3 was standard 1. In 1999, when I was supposed to go to standard 1, they changed it and made it grade 3.
Yeah.
So therefore, I could not finish my standard 5. I couldn't finish standard 10. All of a sudden, now I'm doing grade 12. You understand? Now I'm doing grade 7. You know, a lot of things have changed. So I grew up in a very different environment. And I grew up with white people. I grew up like white people are growing up or should be growing up now if they didn't have their own enclaves. But I grew up like that. This neighbor is white. That neighbor is white. That neighbor is white. That neighbor is white. We're the only black family in the street. Number 3, Carroll Avenue. On the corner of Jacaranda and Carroll Avenue. And Carroll is spelled with a double L, right? Or is it a double R? Either way, it's spelled wrong. You know? Either way. If you go on the other side of Carroll, that's where our GP was Dr. Bartlett. 1993. You know? Still there. You know? Still there. Still in that area. So I grew up with white people knowing how white people live. I slept over at white people's houses more than I could sleep over at a black person's house because there was no black person to sleep over at their house in my neighborhood. There was no black person that owned a house in our neighborhood at the time when we got there. My dad acquired the land in 1991. So, not many black people know white people as intimately as I know them because I grew up in their culture. Everything. I grew up in their culture. Weekends are for Birvosros. It's like a habitual thing. Every weekend I need to have a Birvos roll. Whether I'm going to rugby or not, I need to have a Birvos. You don't get that. I don't like kota. I don't like it. I don't like mayonnaise. Don't like it. All the things that black people like, I don't like it. I don't like it. I'm sorry. I can't. Because I grew up with white people and white people didn't like those things. So therefore, I don't like them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's no one who is as empathetic to the position of white people as me. And you know what's the funniest thing? All my white friends are angry at the things that certain white people are saying about me. All of them are angry. They're calling me because they're angry. How dare they call you a racist? Do they know that you did this? Do they know? I'm like, bro, relax. You grew up around black people. You're different from those white people who've isolated themselves. You don't see things the way they see them, and there's nothing you can do. And that's what I'm trying to explain to black people. And now I have to explain it to white people as well, because there are some white people that are angry. They can't believe. It's like my grandmother. She can't believe that her grandchild would be accused of racism. Imagine that. Racist white people saying, oh, he speaks so well. He's so eloquent. I speak 6 languages. 6 languages. When we talk about artificial intelligence, right? We talk about LLMs, language learning models, right? When you talk about super intelligence coming, intelligence greater than human intelligence. When you talk about AIG or whatever, AGI or whatever, artificial general intelligence. When you talk about that, we're talking about language learning modules. As a human being, whether you are fully Homo sapien or you've got a percentage of Neanderthal blood, whatever, as humankind, right? If our intelligence, when it is digitized and put in silicone and chips and everything else, is a language learning model, who is more intelligent between you who only speaks English and Afrikaans and me who speaks English, Afrikaans, Zulu, a mixture of Sotho, Tswana and Pedi, you know what I mean? Xhosa, Tsonga. You understand what I'm saying? You name it. Who's more intelligent? It's the one who's got more language learning modules. Let's say we are coding computers. Who's more intelligent between the guy who knows JavaScript, C++, or the guy who only knows Python? The guy who knows more languages. So, of course I speak well. I'm highly intelligent. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, you're insulting me. Imagine that. Do you think that's a compliment to me? Damn it, you're racist. Damn it. And you only know 2 languages. Just imagine that. Just imagine. Ngakleba. You can't sheba me. And I'm shebbing you right now.
No,
I was no wuti. I'm saying what?
Stop it. No.
I'm shebbing you. So please, the amount of white fragility that I just stepped on, I've been trending for 5 days straight. The budget speech came. The budget speech did not come. I'm still trending. Abanye were being abused. Ema Zanzou, ema Pitori.
Esh, my man, I need to check. I need to check and watch the Elon Musk debate on yourself.
Yeah.
And with and shout out to everyone somebody who said Donald Brown, who's
Donald Brown. Yeah, from Worldview.
Which channel, which platform is it going to be on?
It's on Worldview. It's called Worldview. Is it
going to be live, or have you guys recorded it already?
No, we haven't recorded it.
Oh, so it's going to be live?
Yeah. We're just scheduling it right now.
Give us a plug. We want to watch it.
It's on Worldview. Worldview is the channel. Just go to Worldview. Yeah, I've been to Worldview before.
Yeah.
There we go. There's a group of us called Worldviewers. Sorry, I'm not in the black WhatsApp groups. I'm not. You know, there's no palesas here sending pictures and anything else. Sorry, guys. You know what I mean?
Honorable Kenny Goodland, let's say, hey, man, get WhatsApp group, you want to polo.
When I was at work, and
stop sending serious things, man.
Sorry, man. You know, shout out to Elon Musk for giving people grok. You know what I mean? Arcade Studio. Shout out to my brother Andy.
I know that guys. Elon Musk.
Oh, but dala bangcava amabillionaire mfana. Jesu uyangcava, ukhanye uyangcava. Hawu. Ma uyibillionaire uyangcava. Hawu. Kanti sibuda. Kanti nina nenza kanjani bafethu? Anwacava amabillionaire, abancavi. Hard guys. Hard. But before Sivala, ne, I just wanted to.
You're speaking to a billionaire every Monday.
Yeah, every Monday. Yeah. Yes. U-Elon akangiphikisanga. Uvela wathi, Uvela wathi, akangiphikisanga.
Yeah.
That's the richest man in the world. That man una 400 billion. 400 billion.
Dollars.
Yazi mawungabala imali yakhe ne.
Angeke iveze calculate. Izoveza la iyo ngathi ubhekele.
No, mawungayibala. If you can for 1 second at a time, it'll take you 13,248 years. If you counted each of his dollars per second, it would take you 13, not seconds. If you counted 1, 2, 3, 4, like as a second goes, counting $1, to count his money would take you 13,248 years.
Maria Tsav.
Yeah.
The authorities.
That's a lot of time on his hands, eh? That's a lot of time on his hands. He's got time to get to know me.
Let's close it, my man. Last words. We'll have a proper episode next week. But I just wanted us to decipher last week's episode.
Yeah, we needed to do that and allow people to understand. And people also listen to Smuda. In the beginning of the conversation, the first 20 minutes, we spoke about what's going to happen. You understand? And Smuda is not stupid, guys. He's not dumb. So he's like, kanti NOTA mawenza lezi zinto zakho zikaKanye West kanti uyazenzisa. And then I agree. I'm like, yeah, vele ngiyazenzisa. Nizenzise ke. And then you guys watch. You understand?
The whole just a part of the interview and they go with it.
So you know, and even that clip was made like Coco Melon is edited. That clip was made to hurt feelings. Yeah, it's a Coco Melon. Coco Melon, like the kids can watch the same video over and over again because it's edited and cut in a way to make it addictive. That video, people watched it over and over again. Over 100 million views on X of that video clip. Over 100 million. 100 meter. Everyone in Ethiopia watched it. Everyone. Every single Ethiopian.
All over the world.
No, seriously. Every Ethiopian watched
DMs from people that I didn't know, from Europe, from the US, from everywhere.
Globally.
Like on all my social media platforms.
Globally.
I even got threats. My man, I was like,
globally. That's why I'm Elefanda.
I did not know
to see M23.
I didn't know who to Elon Musk could I ding it. You know? I was like, what's going on, man? Until I was sent a link.
Yeah.
You could know Elon Musk just reposted this.
You know,
that's why.
I was reading the comments about Tuga. But Tuga when I don't know why. But Tuga when Spoo, why do you do this? Scroll. Pause. Yati, 1 hour ago. I've just gone through 1 hour of comments. That's just 1 hour.
My man, everyone follows Elon Musk, bro.
The only thing that I'm upset about or a little bit disappointed about is that this trend basically overtook the whole Zanzou story. That Zanzou story is the most heartbreaking thing we've ever seen. It's the most heartbreaking thing. To see it, the thing is that we know the club culture, the club life. You know what I mean? That's why ungeke uhlakana noSbuda emaklabhini unless uspanada. And he's in and out, gone. Because we know that it's surrounded in a lot of nefarious activities, especially the high-end clubs. You know, when you look at club owners, those are the people that are most likely to get killed in business rivalries and all these things, extortion, you know what I mean? There isn't a restaurant in a high-end place of South Africa that isn't visited by the cops daily. The cops don't come there to search. A manager comes out, a waiter comes out, somebody comes out, walks in, and then all of a sudden talks to the cops for 10 seconds as if like the cops are his cousin, and then gone. Everywhere you go to Sandton, in any restaurant that's in like an open shopping center like Morningside, whatever, or anywhere, Danefern, Fourways, anywhere, a cop car will just come and circle, and you know, people from the restaurant will come out all of a sudden. I don't know if the restaurants have a deal that they need to give the cops food anytime a cop car comes in, you know what I mean? Because I know when we're watching TV, Police Academy and everything else, the police would, in the States, would go to some donut shop and be given donuts and stuff like that. I don't know if that's the same arrangement. Do you know of anything like that?
No, I don't.
But everywhere you go, you see it. So you know that, okay, whatever happens here, it seems like they're protected by the cops. They're protected by the cops. So therefore, you know that whatever happens to you inside a club, you can't run to the cops. You can't. You can't. There was a time I booked you for a party. Right? Black Orchard, 2008. When was it? It was around the time of the NetBank Challenge. I was partnering with Olutu Oyana.
He's got a new spot now, by the way. They're in Rivonia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Opposite the Kanye offices in Rivonia.
Yeah.
Next to,
so he's back in Gauteng.
Opposite McDonald's.
So he's the guy that owned that ran the venue where your business partner TK discovered
SAHRC.
Talamanca.
It's called Talamanca. Yeah.
Talamanca.
It was called Talamanca. Yeah.
And I used to still drink when I used to go to Talamanca. This was before 2010. Nah. And there was a time where it was like maybe 3 a.m. in the morning. And I was like, damn, what is that mountain there in the ocean? Because Talamanca was right by the ocean. And then when the sun came, I was like, no, it was clouds. It wasn't even a mountain. So, I remember Talamanca, you'd leave there when the sun is up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they also had the poetry sessions, Omsaki.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then we used to have the poetry, guitar playing session.
That's where SAHRC was discovered.
In Talamanca. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So, for some reason, Oletu, because I was still in high school at the time, Oletu decided, they don't need this money. I'm going to NetBank Challenge. Tati Malietu. Gone. The club owner now wanted his payment because we got the club on consignment, so to speak. You know what I mean? So we hadn't paid the car. Took like 80K and then we had to go to the cops, and we called the cops. Right? And then the cops arrived in the club. And then so now I'm trying to talk to the cops. The cop grunted at me. And he went to the owner of the place. It was a guy called Sergio. The cops went to go speak to him, not me who was calling them. Yeah.
Sergio used to live in a penthouse in Michelangelo in Zanzou.
So
Sergio was my boy. I remember Sergio.
Yeah. They went to talk to Sergio. And I was like, how? But we're the ones that something has happened to. It's because they had a relationship with Sergio. So if they're being called to black, they're going to speak to the owner. They've got their own relationship and everything else. So from that moment, I knew that, damn, the club owner has got the cops on payroll. Every club owner has got cops on payroll. There isn't a club owner that doesn't have cops on payroll. So if anything happens to you inside a club, implicitly you know that I cannot now go report this to the police. Which police are going to listen to me? So those guys that were being abused and everything else, people are thinking to themselves, but why didn't they report it to the police? Why is it only coming out now? It's impossible to report to the police that are just going to dismiss the case and maybe find something that they can use to target you. They can get their own back. The biggest humiliation is that those videos are now public. The abuse that they've been living with and hiding from everyone else that they endured is now being seen by the public. People recognize them in the videos.
And
their
it'll
dignity,
forever be seen by their children.
You understand? Everything. It's being haunted. And the only reason...
That's a human rights abuse. Did the South African Human Rights Commission say something?
Yeah, they did. They did. But it shouldn't just be a human rights. It should be a criminal issue. The police should be saying that we've arrested so-and-so, we've arrested this one, we've arrested this one. They haven't made any arrests or anything else. The latest video that came out was someone that died. Someone that died.
I didn't see it. I didn't know.
Kulani. That's his name. Now, for everything that Kulani and all of them endured, you need to imagine this. As a black man, what you are being told is that even if you can be abused, you can be sodomized, you can be, forced to masturbate in front of people, you can be stomped on, you can be killed. People will get over it in a day.
Sure.
If it was black women that were going through something like that, it would at least be a situation. And that's something that I want us to sit with for this week until we come back next week. Just sit with the fact that black men were abused in this country and nobody batted an eyelid. It's a joke. It's a joke, and that's the most hurtful thing for me. And the fact that the BE partners of those clubs, they know the club culture. There's a reason why Usbuda doesn't own a club. He does not want to invest in that business because he knows what else it will entrap him in. The BE partners know that business. They own Homecoming Festival and everything else. Distancing themselves. Oh, no, we don't work. You cannot say that you weren't part of the culture that contributed to those bouncers and bodyguards feeling that they've got the right to do what they did. And that's where we need to pause for a second and stop and think about that and look at the conditions that black people are living under. Black people cannot say that we're being genocided or doing this. They cannot run to the cops. They are oppressed by whites. They're being accused of racism. All of these heinous things. And you still expect them to show up with a smile when they wake up like Poppy from the Poppy Show does at 4 a.m. to catch taxis from Kailicha to UCT where she arrives at 8 a.m. I ended there.
Mondays belong to the authority. That's NOTA. Mic drop. See you guys next Monday. Danko.